Guys, thanks. Good show there. Good morning, everybody. Breaking news. Are Republicans failing on their promise to repeal and replace? At the moment, it's hanging in the balance. Another critical defection inside the party means, as of now, they do not have the votes in the Senate. We'll know a bit more later this morning after they get together. As we say good morning, everybody, I'm Bill Hemmer, live at America's Newsroom. Big show here for you, too. What's happening?
It's not slowing down. Ever, right? It's not going to ever. So we're here for you. I'm Shannon Bream. So Republicans now facing another potential defeat over health care. Maine Senator Susan Collins joining John McCain, Rand Paul, and Ted Cruz in opposing the Cassidy-Graham bill that would undo much of Obamacare and turn its subsidies into block grants that states could then decide how they want to use. This latest twist only spurring more questions and confusion among lawmakers.
I told the president I would take another look, but that I was not optimistic that I would be able to get to yes.
If we do this, the end result will be we're going to have a food fight over the formula. This is not repeal. This is not what we promised.
We need new ideas and a better approach. That's what the Senate pursued this summer. That's what Senators Graham and Cassidy are pursuing now.
Americans want good health care. Lower premiums, more coverage. This bill does the opposite.
Chief White House correspondent John Roberts begins our coverage this morning. Good morning to you, John.
Shannon, good morning to you. You know, we've often referenced the movie The Princess Bride when talking about whether or not Obamacare will ever be repealed. And this morning we got to go there again because we are being told by officials here at the White House that while the Graham-Cassidy bill is not all dead, it is mostly dead. Late yesterday, as you pointed out, Susan Collins, after the CBO score came out showing that while it would save $133 billion on the deficit over 10 years, millions of people would be out without health insurance. Susan Collins just came forward to say she cannot support that bill. Listen here.
I have to do what I think is right. I have to do what I think is right for the people of Maine and the people of this country. And that is what has led me to my decision today.
Now, a source told me this morning the reason why it is mostly dead and not all dead is because the White House is still holding out hope that they can get Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski on board, as well as perhaps Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. Rand Paul has been the most vocal no here, but the White House has been talking to him, and while they're not particularly optimistic about it, they are holding out hope that Paul may come on board. Paul's camp told me just a short time ago that the only way he would come on board is if the block grants in Graham-Cassidy are either removed or significantly reduced, which they don't believe will happen. But already there is talk, Shannon, that if this measure does fail, and at the moment it looks like it's going to fail, White House not prepared to pronounce it dead, but it's almost all the way there. The Senate is talking about introducing another reconciliation measure after September 30th to give this yet another try. The president really wants this, and the Senate's trying to give it to him, but so far it doesn't look like they're going to get it through. Shannon?
Well, meantime, John, it sounds like the president is continuing his feud with the NFL, at least some of the players this morning.
Oh, yep, and that was continuing on this morning. The president continuing to claim the patriotic high ground here after last night's Monday Night Football game, in which Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones locked arms with members of his entire team and took a knee. That was before the national anthem was played. The president tweeting, quote, "The booing at the NFL game last night," and it was audible when the entire Dallas team dropped to its knees, "was the loudest I have ever heard. Great anger." The president also noting that Jones and the Cowboys stood for the anthem itself, tweeting, quote, "But while Dallas dropped to its knees as a team, they all stood up for our national anthem. Big progress being made. We all love our country." At a rally for Luther Strange last night, Vice President Mike Pence said he stands 100% with the president on the NFL issue. Listen here.
Folks, we've all got a right to our opinions. But I don't think it's too much to ask the players in the National Football League to stand for our national anthem. And I know the people of Alabama agree.
A lot of cheers for that viewpoint there in Alabama at that Luther Strange rally last night. By the way, the special election today, and I know you'll be covering that. The president this morning also going off on his favorite topic, television ratings, tweeting out, quote, "Ratings for the NFL football are way down except before the game starts when people tune in to see whether or not our country will be disrespected." The president has a press availability this afternoon with the Spanish Prime Minister, who will be visiting him here at the White House. So, Shannon, likely that we will hear about this issue at that that press conference. A lot of other important things, though, that we need to talk to the president about, including what he's going to do about all those poor folks in Puerto Rico. So lots to talk about today.
Yeah,
Shannon?
devastating situation there, and we don't want that to get lost in all the other headlines.
Not at all.
Thank you, John.
Pretty good preview there. For more on all this now, Ronna McDaniel, chairwoman for the RNC, the Republican National Committee, with me in studio, and nice to have you back here.
Great to be here.
7 years, repeal and replace.
7 years.
Not so much.
It's tough. I was in Pennsylvania yesterday, and I felt it from our voters. They are hurting. They feel let down right now. They're saying, hey, our premiums are doubling. This isn't going away for us. Insurers are pulling out of our counties. We are struggling. We need help. We sent you there to get it done. There is a recognition, though, that Democrats are nowhere to be found. They're hiding again. They put this in place, and they've not come across the aisle to find any solutions for the American people, and Republicans continue to fight.
That may be the case, but how is this going to affect the GOP?
It's a struggle. As party chair, I say, let's go look at 2018. You can't give up. We have our president who's fighting hard for this. You have our vice president. We have 217 House members who fought for it and passed it. We have 49 senators. We need to expand our margin in the Senate. You have 10 states that President Trump won, where we have Democrat incumbents, and we're going after those seats because we need to expand our margin.
I can't believe it helps you in those states.
It will help us because those candidates will be running.
Not the failure to repeal and replace.
Because those candidates won't be running as Washington candidates. These will be new candidates running against Democrats who've done nothing. Who put this in place, who are not finding relief, who are putting a solution forward similar to Bernie Sanders, which is this single-payer monstrosity that's going to destroy our country and our health care system. So we can win in those states. We've got to do it. We've got to give the president a better majority. But today, it is disappointing to see Republicans holding this up. I wish they would vote for it. I hope they'll change their mind.
They tried to help Maine. They tried to help Alaska. They tried to help Arizona.
Yep.
As of now, all three of those states could be no votes.
So you have 3 or 4 Republicans that are no, but you have 48 that are yes, and you have this House that's a yes, and you've got the president and the vice president, and the American people have to look at the Republicans that are fighting for this and no, do not give up. We need you in the midterms. We have to expand our majority.
2 more topics quickly. Tax reform. The president goes to Indiana tomorrow night. What can you tell our viewers about what will be in this proposal that's described as great reform? How great is it?
Well, the president's already kickstarted our economy with deregulation, with better energy policy, and now he's going to do that third part of it, which is tax reform. We have to simplify our tax code. We have to get relief to the middle class so they can bring more money home, and then we've got to make our corporate rates competitive.
Do you know about the specific details that he will share?
I don't, and we'll let the president reveal that tomorrow. But he has said middle class tax cuts and corporate tax rates that are in line with the rest of the world, so we can kickstart our economy and get jobs back.
One
to the
more
United
topic,
States.
Alabama. There's all different sides clashing of ideas in Alabama, whether it's Donald Trump and Mike Pence, whether it's Steve Bannon, and et cetera, et cetera. What does this vote mean?
Well, from the RNC perspective, we're going to be in supporting that nominee, and we're going to keep that seat. We've got to keep it Republican. This is what we do as a party. You have primaries, and then you come together. You let your purpose unite you. There's nothing more than we need than another Republican in the Senate. We have to keep that seat. The president needs every Republican he can get to help him complete his agenda.
Well, quickly, fundraiser in New York City tonight?
Yes.
The president's coming back here. What can you tell us about the competition for money between the RNC and the DNC 9 months in?
Well, the Republican Party is thriving. We are raising money because of our president, because of his support. We have $93 million that we've raised so far. The Democrats have raised half of that, and we have 7 times more cash on hand, and we're investing it in states already to win these midterms.
We'll see what all these issues tell us real soon. Ronna McDaniel, thank you for coming back here.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
You got it. 9 minutes past. More news now. Shannon.
We are getting new information on a deadly shooting near Jerusalem. Early this morning, a Palestinian man shot 3 Israeli security officers dead and critically wounded a 4th. The attack happened at a crossing between Israel and the West Bank. Comes at a tense period amid the Jewish high holidays. Connor Powell's live in Jerusalem to tell us more. Hello, Connor.
Yes, Shannon, the attack also came just as President Trump's envoy, Jason Greenblatt, arrived in the region to actually begin talks between Israelis and Palestinians. But Israeli police here say it was a 37-year-old Palestinian man a father of 4 with a valid work visa that carried out today's attack that killed 3 Israelis and wounded another. Police say he was mingling here at the checkpoint among other Palestinian day laborers who were coming into Israel to work when he opened fire, attacking the guards here. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu condemned the attack, called on Palestinian leaders to condemn it as well, saying that they are responsible for the attack because of their continued incitement. He also said that the attacker's home would be destroyed. Police here, though, also pointed out that by all accounts, the attacker had issues at home, and it maybe appeared to have been trying to carry this out because of some family issues. It doesn't appear that he was working with anyone and was some type of a lone wolf. It's similar to what we've seen in terms of attacks here in the last several years, where there are angry young Palestinian men who carry out these attacks for other reasons, but they target them on Israeli citizens here, both in the West Bank and here in Israel. Shannon?
All right, Connor Powell, thank you for the update.
Well,
much
10 minutes past the hour now, primary day in the great state of Alabama. Have you heard?
Our president asked the people of Alabama to send Luther Strange back to the United States Senate. And I'm here tonight to say, I stand with Luther.
Well, President Trump now throwing his muscle behind Big Luther as well. Luther Strange, but the challenge here has a lot of support. Which side wins out? Karl Rove set to analyze on that. Talk to him live in a moment on that. Also, there is this.
Roger Stone arriving on Capitol Hill for his meeting with the House Intelligence Committee. He's going to be taking questions on the Russia investigation. We'll bring you details as soon as we get them.
Also, Shannon, amid rising tensions with North Korea, the parents of Otto Warmbier now talking for the first time since the death of their son, imprisoned and they believe tortured in a North Korean prison.
No mother, no parent should ever have gone through what we went through. And the fact that Otto was alone all that time with no one to come to him is inexcusable.
House Oversight Committee Chairman Trey Gowdy is demanding details on any senior Trump administration aide or official who used private emails for work. Comes after top advisor and President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, admitted to using private email to communicate with fellow White House staffers. Also reports that at least 6 White House staffers also have used private email. The letter gives the White House until October 9th to comply.
I've been in Washington less time than the president has, and we've become friends, personal friends. We have the same goals, same agenda, and so I think it's a narrative that's being created because there are other agendas out there. People that don't like Mitch McConnell, for example, other things going on. I'm keeping my eye on the ball.
So big day in Alabama now. Senate primary runoff is today. President doubling down earlier today on Twitter said this on behalf of Luther Strange. Luther Strange had been shooting up in the Alabama polls since my endorsement. Finish the job. Vote today for Big Luther. Vice President Mike Pence at a rally last night for Strange. Meanwhile, former White House strategist Steve Bannon was also in Alabama, rooting for Strange's opponent, Roy Moore. Bannon saying a win for Moore would be a win for the populism that elected President Trump. Former White House Deputy Chief of Staff to President George W. Bush, Karl Rove, with me now. How you doing, sir? Good morning to you. Boy, some strange currents running through Alabama in this race. I'm confused. I've got Bannon on one side saying that Trump is going to regret his support. I've got Pence and the president on the other. I mean, straighten it out, Karl. What does an outcome mean?
Well, full disclosure, I'm a volunteer with American Crossroads Senate Leadership Fund that's been supporting Strange. This race is going to be close. Moore leads in the polls, but he led in the first round. In fact, people suspect the polls suggested Luther was going to run third, and Moore might even take it all with more than 50% in the first round. But the president's appearance on Friday night and vice president appearance last night are helping Luther finish strong. So we'll see how it comes out tomorrow. But if Luther Strange wins, it's a huge win for the president. Will be because of President Trump's appearance on Friday night.
All right, I want you to listen to 2 things here, okay? One at a time. Steve Bannon with Sean Hannity last night suggesting the president has been given bad information on this vote. Go.
This is not about debating the issues. They try to destroy Donald Trump. The same gang that's going after Roy Moore is the same gang that went after Donald Trump. And I got to tell you, I think it's sometime later after tomorrow, a real, review has to be done of how President Trump got the wrong information and came down on the wrong side of the football here.
So that's one side here. Before you answer that, Carl, he called you out last night as well when he said this.
Mitch McConnell and Ward Baker and Karl Rove and Stephen Law, all the instruments to try to destroy Judge Moore and his family, your day of reckoning is coming.
So what about all that, Carl, and how do you respond?
Well, I've been threatened by more fearsome people than Bannon, so my day of reckoning, I'm not particularly worried about that. But let's start with the first part. This decision by President Trump to support Luther Strange was made while Steve Bannon was at the White House months and months and months ago. So maybe Bannon lost out on the internecine battle in the West Wing, and now he's bitter about it. But look, there was a reason why the president supported Luther Strange. He was the sitting senator, and he was the leader. He introduced a bill to build the wall and pay for it by taking money from sanctuary cities. He is a strong supporter of the president's. Roy Moore was a strong opponent of the president in 2018. In fact, even after Donald Trump became the Republican nominee, he dismissed the idea of the wall. He, in this campaign, said he opposed the president on health care. He would not have voted for Graham Cassidy, or even for the earlier skinny repeal bill. And look, Roy Moore is the Todd Aiken of 2018. This is a guy who set up a private charitable foundation that seemed to exist for the care and feeding of him. When he was out of office, he was the president of the charitable foundation. When he was in office, his wife is the president of the charitable foundation. Not really clear what it does except pay for airplanes to fly him to give speeches to church groups.
That's
and he got $1 million.
But you have to think about the conservative credentials of Roy Moore. Because
absolutely. That's why he's in the race.
People in Alabama believe he's the guy who stood up to the federal government when it came to the Ten Commandments 10 years ago.
Well, he did. He stood up to the he was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court
in the state capitol.
Well, he put it on the grounds of the judicial building in violation of state law, which set up a procedure by which monuments would be added to state grounds. He was sued in court. Federal judge held that he violated state law and enjoined him, said to remove the statute and go through the procedure. And he told a federal judge, I'm not going to abide by your injunction. He was removed by a special commission that oversees the judiciary because you got to have respect for the rule of law. He did this again when the U.S. Supreme Court declared gay marriage permissible, and he directed local officials not to agree with and act in accordance with a U.S. Supreme Court decision.
In the meantime, you've got people
made it popular, though.
"Make America Great Again" hats at the Moore rally. I'm just saying the currents are crossing, and they're very intriguing.
It's like this.
I agree.
It's like this.
We can agree on that.
Totally.
Thank you, Carl. Come on back real soon. Okay, got to run.
Right,
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You bet, Shannon.
Well, brand new saber rattling out of North Korea. The rogue regime threatening to shoot U.S. bombers out of the sky. So what are our options to deal with that crisis? We're going to ask the former counterterrorism advisor to Vice President Dick Cheney. Also, the parents of Otto Warmbier are pushing for tougher action against Pyongyang. They're opening up about their late son's ordeal in North Korea.
It's astounding to Cindy and I to discover that North Korea is not listed as a state sponsor of terror. We owe it to the world to list.
So the brave parents of Otto Warmbier sharing their story earlier today on Fox and Friends, 3 months after their son Otto returned home from North Korea and died 6 days later. Otto was 21 years old when he was accused of stealing a poster during a visit to North Korea. He was in prison in that country for nearly a year and a half. His parents say when Otto was medically evacuated back to Cincinnati, Ohio, he was blind, deaf, scarred, and had severe brain damage. They're now pushing for tougher action against North Korea.
We see North Korea claiming to be a victim and that the world is picking on them. And we're here to tell you North Korea is not a victim. They're terrorists. They kidnapped Otto. They tortured him. They intentionally injured him. They are not victims. They're terrorists.
Fred and Cindy are great people.
Yeah, that's their account of seeing their son and being so unprepared for how badly injured he was is just gut-wrenching.
The way they described when they went on the plane for the first time is tough, but Prayers are with you to the Warmbier family.
We should not forget what happened there. And all of this is coming as the White House is pushing back on claims by North Korea. They say that President Trump has declared war against the regime after sending U.S. bombers to fly close to North Korea's east coast over the weekend. The regime's foreign minister making these comments yesterday.
Since the U.S. has made a declaration of war, we will have every right to make countermeasures, including the right to shoot down the United States strategic bombers, even if they do not come into our airspace.
Michael Walls is a retired Green Beret commander for the U.S. Army, former counterterrorism advisor to Vice President Dick Cheney, and a Fox News contributor. Good to see you this morning, sir.
Hey, good morning.
Okay, so I want to start by playing the reaction from the White House. This is Sarah Sanders in response to that foreign minister's claim.
Right.
We've not declared war on North Korea, and frankly, the suggestion of that is absurd. It's never appropriate for a country to shoot down another country's aircraft when it's over international waters.
Michael, do you think they would actually take that very provocative step or even attempt to do it, or do you think this is more bluster?
Shannon, this is clearly in the realm of bluster. The North Koreans said that South Korea declared war when they withdrew from a joint industrial park in North Korea last year. So this is part and parcel for North Korea's kind of modus operandi for how it operates, number one. And number two, they really don't have the capability to shoot down our fighters and bombers over international waters. They have an aging Soviet-era Air Force that I'm not worried about at all. They do have some fairly sophisticated missile defense systems, but they are defensive. The last time an American plane was shot down was actually a helicopter in 1994 over the DMZ. They did kill an American pilot and take another one hostage and did torture that pilot. And can I just say, the Otto Warmbier family's account this morning was truly heartbreaking, and we do still have American hostages held in North Korea today.
Yeah, and we can't forget that. It's something that with all these other headlines and the saber rattling, that's just a fact. I mean, there are real human being lives on all sides of this equation that are now in danger because of this. Okay, so we flew bombers over the weekend, much further north of the DMZ than we have any other time this century. Now we're going to go ahead with long-planned naval exercises jointly with South Korea. China has said they want us to stop these joint exercises. They think it's provocative on our part. What do you say?
Yeah, the Russians have said the same thing, so it's not surprising the Chinese would say that. They've been saying that for years. This is kind of a prerequisite that the Chinese and Russians and North Koreans would like to see us stop doing. But it is a very important demonstration of our commitment not only to our South Korean allies, but to our Japanese allies and to the region who are on pins and needles from a North Korean regime that is, continually launching missiles and threatening the entire region with nuclear blackmail. So that's the last thing we should do in terms of stepping down not only our commitment to our allies, but demonstrating our capability. That's an important piece as well in operating jointly with the South Korean Air Force and with the Japanese Air Force.
The foreign minister there in North Korea also, along with saying that we've declared war on them, has said that they may now test a nuclear device of some kind over the Pacific Ocean. If they could, if they do, what must be our response?
Well, that would be a hugely provocative action. Actually, the last country to do that was China in the 1980s, and then the United States way back, in the 1960s. There's a couple of things that we need to continue to do. I'm okay with the tough talk coming out of the White House because we have to keep the pressure up. China is very good, and North Korea is even better at kind of dialing up tensions while the world is focused on the issue. But as soon as we shift attention, it's kind of back to the status quo. A number of foreign diplomats are actually reporting this morning that gas prices in Pyongyang have tripled since the beginning of the year. So we are starting to see sanctions bite. We have to keep up the pressure. China is very good at doing kind of, kind of cooperating publicly, but then backing off privately because the status quo works in their favor.
Yeah, and passing the sanctions is one thing. Getting them enforced by all the countries is another. Michael Watts, thank you for your service. Thanks for your time this morning, too.
All right, thanks,
Good to see you.
It is one of our top stories of the day. Can Republicans deliver on repealing Obamacare?
Right now, they don't have my vote, and I don't think they have Mike Lee's either.
That's Ted Cruz, and this is Utah Senator Mike Lee. Will Republicans try the vote this week? We'll talk to him live about that. Stay tuned for that answer next.
The fate of the latest Republican effort to repeal Obamacare is up in the air. 4 Republican senators now oppose the Graham-Cassidy bill, leaving it short of the votes needed to pass.
I am disappointed that we could not come together in a bipartisan way and draft a comprehensive bill.
I made a promise to repeal Obamacare. I never had one person come up to me and said, oh, what you mean by repeal is that you're going to keep most of the spending and then you're going to block grant it to states, right? Nobody said that.
So will the bill actually get to the floor for a vote of any kind? Joining me now, Utah Republican Senator Mike Lee. And we understand he's yet to make a decision on how he will vote. Welcome, Senator. Good to have you with us this morning.
Thank you. Good to be with you, Shannon.
Okay, I got to imagine this GOP policy lunch you're going to have in about 3 hours could be very interesting. How do you expect the discussion to go, and what do you need to know about this bill to make a decision?
First of all, I need to know what the final text is going to look like. After all the changes have been made, I want to know what it looks like. Some changes have been made in the last 48 hours or so, and I think it's been moving in the wrong direction, frankly. The bill in its current form is giving more power to federal bureaucrats and less regulatory relief to American families who have seen their health care costs skyrocket under the oppressive weight of Obamacare. So that's what I'm looking to find is final text and answers to some of these questions about how we're going to provide real relief to American families.
Okay, so the way that this bill has been couched, and at least the overarching framework so far, has been take the money away from the feds, give it to the states in these block grants, like governors and local legislatures in the states, make some of these decisions. Is it your impression that is it part of the attempt to win over some of these outlying, we have 4 on record no votes from the GOP at this point, that has led to some of the changes you referenced that seem to be turning it in the other direction?
Yes, perhaps they took it a step too far in trying to get votes that they weren't going to get anyway. I'm not sure. But I do think that we can pass a bill and that bill can provide real relief to the American people. Look, the American middle class has been hit hardest by Obamacare. They've seen their health care costs go through the roof with no end in sight as to the escalation of the cost of health insurance that in many cases people are no longer even able to use because the copays are so high, the deductibles are so high, so they might have insurance, but they can't use it. We need to bring down those costs for middle-class families, and that's what I'm looking for this bill to do.
Okay, you get to September 30th. That is the deadline for using this logistical framework to get something passed with just 51 votes. At this point, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So you get past that, then you have to look at something, absent something technically semi-miraculous, you're stuck with now getting to 60 votes. Senator Susan Collins, one of your GOP colleagues, has said, we've got to sit down and work with the Democrats. If you can't coalesce 52 GOP votes to get something done, do you envision a scenario in which you can work with Democrats to pass something that in any way chips away at Obamacare?
I don't know. That might be possible, Shannon, but while we've got this opportunity, I would love to see us take it and run with it. I would love to see us repeal as much of Obamacare as we possibly can. Look, every single Republican who has campaigned for federal office over the last 7 years has done so on the promise of repealing Obamacare. We have to actually do that. We've got the means by which to repeal it with 51 votes right now, and we need to take advantage of that this week.
Okay, I want to ask you about a move by the Supreme Court yesterday as well. The president's travel ban was set to be argued at the court on October 10th. The administration did a new revised travel ban again Sunday night. So the court has now pulled that case off the argument calendar and asked the sides to come forward with new briefs about whether this case is moot. Do you think that the justices are ever going to weigh in on exactly what President Trump has attempted to do through this measure?
It's very difficult to predict what the Supreme Court's going to do in any particular case. In this case, what happened yesterday was that the Supreme Court moved this particular case off of its argument calendar and instructed the parties to brief the justices on whether or not the case had been rendered moot. It's not exactly clear what's going to come of that briefing, but if the court concludes that it's not moot, they will quickly reschedule that case for argument later on in the term.
All right. Senator Mike Lee, keep us updated on how you come down on a vote, especially after that luncheon today. We'd love to be a fly on the wall. Thanks for your time, sir.
Thank you.
There are hundreds being evacuated east of Anaheim, California. An aggressive wildfire growing, threatening homes. Fire and emergency crews working to contain the flames. Don't know about containment now. William LaJeunesse does. He's live in L.A. with more. William, good morning. What's happening?
Well, Bill, firefighters know when this fire started, but not how. It could have been a spark from a car, a lawnmower, a cigarette, a homeless guy starting a fire to eat. But around 3 o'clock yesterday, this fire exploded. Normally in a neighborhood like this, east of L.A., there's not enough brush for a fire to take off where the flames get high enough for the embers to spread. But this one ripped through backyards, palm trees, tall brush to light up 2,000 acres, forcing 1,000 residents to evacuate.
Just came up quickly like a firestorm. Came up over the ridge there, probably 50-foot flames. Sounded like a turbine engine when it came over. At times we were kind of thinking we probably should have left.
Flames were across every hill all the way around us, swirling embers. It was crazy.
So the fire is just about 5% contained despite a DC-10 and helicopters working overnight. The fire closed portions of the 91 freeway, but so far, firefighters only lost one home as crews came in from around Southern California to assist. Local high school gyms have been open for evacuees to avoid the danger. The good news, Bill, flames right now are burning away from the homes into the Cleveland National Forest. The bad news is winds and the temperatures will pick up later today into the mid-90s, so we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we shall then. Thanks, William Lajeunesse. Keep us posted on that. Thanks in Southern California.
Another NFL team with a sign of protest. The Dallas Cowboys joining the debate Monday night and drawing a response from President Trump. There's mixed reaction to what they did and what they didn't do. We're going to try to break that down. And how much longer does this debate last? Plus this.
If we do have to evacuate, we do need the aisleway clear. This is for your safety.
Wow, smoke filling the cabin of that plane. What the passengers on board are saying about the airline. Check this out.
A little bit scared when the plane, there's smoke and you don't know if it's a fire and worry about blowing up.
I've flown many times. I was in the military too, so never experienced anything like this.